Hey, how's it going? Adrienne Elise here, popping in to talk to you about what's going on in the stars. Welcome to the Gaia Daily Update for November 30th to December 3rd, 2018. So a lot of people are feeling incredible frustration right now, and it might not really make sense where this frustration is coming from, but it does match what's going on in the stars. We've had this big impulse of fire energy, the Sagittarius energy with the Sun and Mercury and Jupiter all in Sagittarius, and just this kind of desire to reach out, reach above, grab a hold of meaning and purpose, and grab a hold of an expansive sense of life, something that's beyond the day-to-day. And yet the other astrology, which is basically the retrograde energy and this sun coming up with a square to Mars, is making us feel like there's just no way forward. And a lot of people are feeling kind of up against the wall, meaning like, it's a really interesting analogy that's been coming up in sessions of like when you're up against the wall, when you're just like right there in front of the wall, you can't even see that there might be a way around. You can't even see that it might be a wall, a short wall. It only you see the blockage. And that's where a lot of people are at right now, because we've had months upon months upon months of retrograde energy. But Mercury retrograde is really what makes us feel so not able to move forward. And along with Mars, Mercury and Mars and Saturn are our main action planets. And so this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, it's like, oh yeah, there's a Sagittarius energy, you know, it's up and beyond and reaching out beyond your daily life, or something that's inspiring, some kind of sense of a spiritual purpose and all this. It's right there, but you don't get to go there. You know, it's kind of how it feels. And we're getting ready this in the next few days for Mercury to go back into Scorpio. Now, this is really interesting, and this is a lot of what's going on, is that Mercury is still retrograde. It's going back into Scorpio, the end degrees of Scorpio. And that is happening on Sunday. Then on Monday, Venus goes back into Scorpio in the beginning degrees. And so we've got this like culmination of this Scorpio energy. Kind of like, yeah, you want to go seeking in the Sagittarius. You want to go on that epic journey. You want to have that experience of connecting with something greater. But are you really done with the depths and with the cleaning up the shadows and the psyche? And so this wall that we're coming up against has to do with everywhere, you know, all of these things. It's like a culmination energy of all of the karmic issues and things that have been coming up for us all year long. And it's just kind of like, oh no, you don't. You're not going anywhere. And a big part of this, so this Venus and Mercury are like bookends, the beginning and the end of Scorpio. The thing is, they both, Venus isn't retrograde anymore, but it's already been through this area of Scorpio. So it's like, okay, here we go again. We got to go back over, back into the dungeon, back into the psyche, deep psyche, back into the closet, back under the rug. And then Mercury is going back to the end degrees of Scorpio, and it's still in retrograde. So it'll just be until Mercury will go into, on the 13th, Mercury will go back into Sagittarius. It turns direct on the 6th. So we've got just another week here of this retrograde energy, but people are really feeling this culmination of frustration. And indeed, it's like 2018 isn't a year to move forward. It's a year of assimilation. It's a year of adjustment. It's a year of cleaning up. It's a year of getting ready to move forward. And already looking at 2019, there's a lot of dynamic energy happening, very different. And it might be uncomfortable in a whole different way because you're being forced and pushed and moved instead of held back. So we're coming to the end of this energy. It will be culminating, but right now, I mean, it will be ending, but right now it's a culmination of it. So just know that this is everything you've been feeling and trying to deal with through this whole year since back from April and May when we started into this retrograde energy. And the thing that's really making us feel frustrated is the sun in square to Mars. So the sun is in Sagittarius, and it wants to dream and be free and be let go to reach beyond this narrow reality. But in square with Mars and Pisces, it's speaking, Mars is our forward action moving planet. And so this is kind of like, there's just tension around moving forward. And the Piscean age is where a lot of these shadowy energies come from that we're dealing with in our psyche. It represents the kind of delusions of the past age, and where we got all this baggage and this karma, and we bought into all these false beliefs. And so Mars is kind of like, oh yeah, right? Like the sun in Sagittarius is like ready to roll and open up to new horizons. And then Mars in Pisces is like, what is keeping you? What's really keeping you from moving forward? Now, I think we're going to feel a big shift with this, but also kind of a blooming of this, but also maybe some clarity as Chiron turns direct on the 9th. So Mercury will turn direct on the 6th, Chiron on the 9th. Venus is going to come out of shadow shortly after that on the 17th of December. So this is going to be, moving along, but we're still completing this energy. And with Chiron having retrograded back into Pisces, Chiron is the wounded healer, so we're speaking of these deep wounds in our psyche, our delusions where we bought into the fact of these lies. We've been told that we're small and inconsequential. We don't have access to God or creation energy in our own right. We have to be good enough or prove something. All of these energies coming up that have been just so acutely in our face with this Venus retrograde that we're still, Venus isn't quite out of shadow to the 17th. So we're still, and it's back in Scorpio now, going back over the territory. It's already gone over twice before. So part of that energy is that it's coming into right now, it's in its third opposition with Uranus. And this is what flavored the whole Venus retrograde. So this is the third and final Venus opposite Uranus. Now, Uranus is higher information that's not accessible to us, higher truths that are deeply hidden in our psyche that come through very sometimes abruptly and shockingly. And so it's interesting because it's almost like maybe our resistance and our feeling of being up against a wall is because we don't want to face, or we're scared of facing, we're scared of letting go of these patterns and beliefs that have been holding us back because it's just what we know. And Uranus, or Venus opposite Uranus, is saying, we cannot heal our self-worth and come into our deservedness until we come into contact with this higher vibrational energy, these higher truths, this truth of our higher subconscious mind that can help us. Now, they're in square with the nodes of the moon, right? So we have this Grand Cardinal Cross. Now, cardinal signs are about new beginnings and starting things, but they're at the end degrees of the cardinal signs, and Uranus is still retrograde. Venus is still in its retrograde shadow. And so we're still in this place of trying to force things to move forward and feel some sort of momentum and shift and something, give me something here, right? And it's like, no, the wall, and so it's just this, but also there's that, we're trying to create something new, but we're also still up against a wall. And what is that wall? That is these deeply hidden belief systems, karmic baggage, and nastiness hidden in our psyche that we've been trying to avoid for so long. And this Venus retrograde has taken us right down into it. Now, the fact that Mercury and Venus are going into Scorpio on the different ends means we're having a culmination of this. It's time to start understanding what this is about. Now, this is really important, and it hasn't been fun, this Venus retrograde, but it's about our self-worth and whether we deserve, and where we bought into stories that we don't have a direct access to our source within. So many souls, the more evolved souls, more powerful souls, the more they feel like they don't deserve their own light, or they don't deserve their own path. And that's crazy, because it's you know, and the image is that like this light, this soul light that's yours, you've worked for to develop over many lifetimes and evolutions, is somehow outside of yourself, and you have to somehow prove yourself worthy. And it's crazy. But it's been so suppressed, this light within, these talents, these gifts, these skills, this ability to remember the cosmic truth and why you're here on the planet. It's been so suppressed and so programmed away from people that they actually, these souls have a hard time even knowing who they are. And this is where a lot of people, this up against the wall feeling has a lot of that. Like, I just don't know who I am, where I'm going, what is the point? Because there's this like complete wall energy blocking, and at the same time, a deep soul desire with the Sagittarius energy activating to get back on your quest, get back on your path. You've been thwarted for lifetimes, but doesn't mean that your path went away. It doesn't mean your light actually went anywhere. It's still right there inside of you. But do you have permission for it? Now, Venus is the ruler of Taurus. It's also rules. So this is, we're talking about our self-worth. We're also talking about resources. And with Taurus, we're talking about inner resources and our deservedness for our inner resources, but also for wealth in the physical world, in physically manifested wealth. And it's really interesting because in this Chinese New Year, it doesn't start until the beginning of February 2019, but it's the Chinese New Year of the Earth Pig. And the pig is a symbol of abundance. And so we're talking about moving into actual, literal, material wealth and abundance in a period of time. So if you look at it that way, the opportunities, these timelines we've been talking about that are trying to land, it makes so much more sense why we've had to go through this Venus retrograde in Scorpio, because we got to know we deserve it. Or these blessings of 2019, it's like kind of a mixed bag, and they're going to pass you by. If you don't feel like you deserve it, if you've bought into these old stories of this shadowy energy in your psyche. And so we are coming up against this wall of frustration, you know, like months of culminating energy of like, oh, just let me go. Can I just feel some sort of movement? And now this Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius is just like salt in the wound, you know, but it's good because the salt actually can clean out the wound and release us into the new energy to be completely ready. So we've just got one more week of this Mercury retrograde, and even though it'll still be in shadow, it'll be in shadow until I believe into close to the solstice. And so we're going to still be kind of working through this retrograde energy for the next couple of weeks, but we are going to start feeling moving into the new, and it'll start feeling a little better and a little lighter. But what's going on right now with all these squares with this sun is our identity, who we think we are in square. Is Sun in Sagittarius. It's like, yeah, I want to claim back that light. I want to claim back this purpose, this journey, this path, this seeking, you know, like who we are is like, you know, the indigo souls, the light worker souls are seeker souls. They've always wanted in this earth evolution to bring in more light, more understanding, teach and heal, and bring harmonization to this process. And we've just been thwarted again and again and again. And that's coming up right now so strong. And so this sun in Sagittarius in square to Mars in Pisces being like, oh yeah, but you know, part of you is still clinging to those old beliefs. As much as you are going to spend all day talking and complaining about them, you're still living by this truth. You know, most people don't really subscribe to traditional religious, you know, ideas, say in Christianity, but yet these distortions of Christianity about how you have to struggle and you have to be in poverty and you have to prove your love to God and you have to earn it and all that, that still is subconsciously ruling our lives. Like, even if, you know, it's almost like the more you reject it in your consciousness, the more in your unconsciousness. This is like a hereditary and past life program programming that has been deeply instilled in our software system. And that Venus retrograde has taken us into some ugly places, but it's all about clearing out all that BS so that we can start actually living and be ready to land this abundance. So we are up against a wall in the nitty gritty, in the thick of it right now, but it's almost over. So make the most of it. Like, let this, it's almost like we've been in this crazy retrograde where it's like, oh wait, this stuff's flying at me and I'm just kind of barely getting through. And now we're going to start sorting it out and just being like, oh, okay, this is being presented to me and it doesn't feel good and I don't like it, but I think I'm ready to get it out by the roots, you know, and just clear it for good. It's almost like there's this big black hole that you've been trying to avoid falling into. This is some sort of pain from past lives and these stories and belief systems that have been programmed, and some sort of manipulation that occurs, some failures, some things like that. And it's like, so I'm just somehow just circle the edge of this big black hole for your whole life and maybe lifetimes just to try to avoid going down there. And then this 2018 comes and it's like, no, you're in the black hole, you know, and you got to go face all of these feelings that you have been refused to address and look at. And it's like, what if they're not even really real? It's a story that was like programmed into your reality, and you've been letting it rule your existence. And it's kind of like, oh, this deep, dark hole, and I just have to do everything I can to stay out of it. And what's coming forward around this deep black hole is these feelings and emotions you've been avoiding because you're in survival mode for so long. And we've got to come out of survival mode so we can start thriving. And that means get rid of the hole for good. Like, it just doesn't. So that means we got to go down into that place, dive deep in. That's what this Venus retrograde's been about. And we're still feeling it right now. You know, when one planet goes direct and Mercury is still retrograde, you're not going to get out of that retrograde energy until Mercury goes direct. So hang in there, because we're cleaning out that dark hole. That dark hole is these failures and regrets. And all of us as souls, especially more evolved light worker souls, have had to go against our truth in this earth evolution. And we have deep, deep pain in our psyche over this. And it makes us feel like we don't deserve our gifts and we don't deserve our path and we don't deserve to be in the light or have the light, which is actually our own light. You know, it's coming from us. And so we've got to switch all of this around so we can step into this year of abundance that lies ahead. So just stick with it as much as you can. Receive this karmic lessons because you're ready to get rid of it. And now that hole is this pain from the past. You know, it's so hard to access this stuff because it's deep in our subconscious. It's past life experiences or, you know, parallel experiences we're living out, but we have no access to the information. It can be really hard. But right now we're having an opportunity with Mercury involved, going back into Scorpio in this retrograde, to make sense of the mess and slow down, you know, like, okay, it's not time to leap ahead. And I've been ready. I'm at the gate, right? But it's like, no, because you're going to miss this incredible opportunity to have this karmic scenario laid out in front of you so you can sort through it and get rid of this black hole for good. And then fill that black hole with your light. This is soul retrieval energy, like bringing home to the earth right here, right now, the truth of who you really are. Because that hole is parts of yourself that are stuck in other dimensional frequencies. And this whole year has been about being triggered, some little thing triggering you into this horrible feeling from a past life that you have no idea where it came from. And you're like, oh my God, here I am, because we can't avoid it anymore. And so it's beautiful. But people are feeling so fed up and so frustrated at this ongoing, never-ending retrograde and never feeling like you're getting anywhere. But trust me, you're getting anywhere. The deepest, the depths, the darkest places that you've gone to, the more you're going to be able to leap ahead as we move into these new energies. So we're coming up on a new moon on Friday, the 7th, and I'm going to do an activation the day before on the 6th. So I hope that I can catch you there as we move. And this is a new moon in Sagittarius. So a brand new start, opportunity to get on to back on the quest where we were thwarted for so many times before. So I hope you can join me for that. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you then. And so until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.